Good day, America. Good day, and welcome to another episode of Truth to Freedom, Real Talk for Real People podcast. I'm one half of the host, James Parker, and we're here with my other half, Mr. Quentin Williams. Good day, sir. How you doing?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Man, it's good. I'm looking forward to these conversations that we are getting ready to have today. So, America, there's so much going on, and we hope that y'all are really paying attention. We really want y'all to pay attention and do your research. Quentin has told y'all, do your research, because you just can't rely on the people, the parties, to just tell you what you want to hear, and it sounds good, and you just run with it. When somebody tells you something that kind of tickles your ear, and you're like, that just don't sound right, you might want to research it. At least find out for yourself whether they're telling the truth. That's why we're here. That's why we started this podcast, and so we hope it is a blessing to you. So, before we get started, I think we're going to be talking about some economic stuff. We're going to be talking about that shooting where that guy was shooting that young lady. Grayson's the guy's name. We're going to be talking about some other stuff. We're going to be talking about a conversation that Barry Sanders had on CNN, I think, or NBC, but one of the two. But we're going to talk about that. But first, Mr. Quentin, I want to start us off with something lighthearted. And so I came across, and you might have seen this. So there's two. Well, I found out there's two, but this was the first one. It's a guy on YouTube named Reagan something. Anyway, he made a parody of a campaign commercial for Kamala Harris, and so it's funny. It's funny, and you got to listen to it because I don't know. We'll talk about it. You got to listen to it. It says some things that makes you say, So let's listen.
I, Kamala Harris, am your Democrat candidate for president because Joe Biden finally exposed his senility at the debate. Thanks, Joe. I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist. I may not know the first thing about running the country, but remember, that's a good thing if you're a deep state puppet. I had 4 years under the tutelage of the ultimate deep state puppet, a wonderful mentor, Joe Biden. Joe taught me rule number one: carefully hide your total incompetence. I take insignificant things and I discuss them as if they're significant. And I believe that exploring the significance of the insignificant is in itself significant. Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time, and there is such great significance to the passage of time. Another trick is trying to sound black. I pretend to celebrate Kwanzaa, and in my speeches, I always do my best Barack Obama impression. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type. And okay, look, maybe my work addressing the root causes of the border crisis were catastrophic, but my knowledge of international politics is truly shocking. The United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. It is an alliance that is strong and enduring. And just remember, when voting this November, it is important to see what can be unburdened by what has been. And by what has been, I mean Joe Biden. Do you think the country went to over the past 4 years? You ain't seen nothing yet.
Uh-oh. Focus on what you want instead of what your friend. Uh-oh. Shut up. Oh, here I go. So, yeah, I was watching something, and I came across the guy played that, and I was listening to it. I thought it was real at first, but the end he said, no, that was just a parody. What did you think?
First off, he's very talented to be able to make that. And where did he get her voice from? I don't know. I guess you could use AI now, right?
Yeah, I guess, or he just strung. Well, you know what? I think a lot of that was her actual voice. He just put clips together. I'm pretty, if he's good in editing and all that stuff, and then I guess with the help of AI, you can string it all along. But I think a lot of that stuff was actually her speaking.
No, there's a lot of truth to it.
So, but yeah, that's what I thought when I first heard it. I'm like, well, that's some of that ain't too far off. it's sad, and the sad. This is the sad thing, America. This is the sad thing. When these people go home, politicians, when they go home, they don't have the same conversations that we have. They don't have them. We sitting at home trying to figure out how we're gonna put gas in our car. Why in the world's costing $300 and $400 to buy groceries? Everything keeps going up, and so they're not having the same conversation, and that's where the disconnect comes. The disconnect comes is that people have turned representatives into a business. It's been corrupt. It's all about money and power. It used to be when it first started, the whole process was for the people. You was electing regular working people to represent you in order to make things fair across the board. But then somebody found out about pouring money into these people and getting them to vote their way, and so it just spelled out. Now it's a business now. And what's so crazy about it? How is it that a president can only run for 8 years, but a congressperson can run till he dies? Don't somebody think that's out of balance? I mean, have you ever looked at one of the congressional committees when they come in? They're pushing people in wheelchairs, and some of them don't even look like they're here with us because they're aides and whatnot. You can see them whispering to them and whatever. I don't even know if they're coherent, but these people are in these positions until they die most of the time. How are they being effective for the American people? And so why would you vote anybody in that has no interest, has no concern, and will pretty much lie in your face saying that, yeah, we're for the people, we'll do this, we'll do that. But at the end of the day, all they want is your vote, because once you vote them in, we go right back to the same rhetoric and the same stuff. So I'll turn it over to you there, Quinn. What you got to say?
No, I agree. I don't know. I guess they just know how to, who to pander to and how to pander to them, because it seems like for the most part it works.
Yeah. Well, America, Mr. Quinn had found a good podcast. Pitchfork Economics is what it's called. I advise you to look it up. They have a series and listen to them. But he sent me a particular series that was talking about corporate profits and things of that nature. And so we're going to transition over to that because it actually made me think. So the reason prices was originally going up was because of supply chain, the extra cost of COVID, cleaning, and all this stuff that was added up that said this was an extra burden. And so that's why prices went up. Well, we've gone beyond that, and prices still keep going up. And we come to find out that corporations and businesses, whatever, are seeing major record profit. But it ain't costing them no more to make what they're making because stuff has gone back pretty much back down. I won't say to normal, but it's not what it was costing before. But this is the same cycle we go through every now and then when they say there's an issue or a crisis and they have to raise the prices. Case in point, because I was an over-the-road truck driver when this happened. I had my own truck. The price of diesel fuel started going up. They said it was costing more to refine it. We was running short. All kind of excuses. And so companies started tacking on a fuel surcharge in order to compensate for the high fuel prices. And so everybody was tacking on this fuel charge. And so that went on for a while. And they told us that this was just temporary. They're doing the fuel surcharge. When everything's get back to normal, they'll do away with the fuel surcharge. Okay, it's 2024, and they're still charging a fuel surcharge. Look on an invoice or a bill of anybody in the transportation, and you'll see a fuel surcharge on it. They're still charging for fuel that ain't costing no more to make now than it did back then. But that keeps record profits in their pocket, and it causes you to stay broke. So I'm gonna turn over to Quinn because I know he got some notes to say on this, and then we'll bounce it back and forth. So what you got to say?
I just want to add first what you said about them companies, corporations gaining record profits. Yes, the cost has kind of flattened out, went back down a little bit. But they're pushing the cost to make it onto the consumer also, and that's how they're able to make record profit. I took a few notes from that podcast. Where do we start? So one thing the lady that was speaking, I don't remember her name, talked about price gouging laws.
Right. I remember that. Yep.
So there's some already that say that there can be no price gouging during like national emergency. We can get some tougher ones, but one of the things she said that she thought would be a good idea to implement is making the price the same across the board. Example, if I buy something offline, you can't charge me less because somebody else is going to buy it inside of the store. And that's something else that they do. They'll charge me $4 because I'm buying it online. They'll charge you $5.
Yeah, for that what they call it a convenience fee now, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. You try to buy something online, the fees that they tack on. That's what got the Ticketmaster. I think
Yep.
it's Ticketmaster got them. Man, they was you could go to the stadium itself and get the ticket for $20. Buy it online. It's almost $50 to get a ticket. That's crazy.
Yep. Um, Also, what aids in corporate profits, corporate tax rate. Now, Trump said this in his debate with Joe Biden.
Mhm.
He took the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%. They're paying less taxes and they're making even more money. Now, taxes is supposed to be used, and everybody pays taxes, right? Everybody's supposed to pay taxes. We take the taxes in an ideal society. We're supposed to take it, and we're supposed to fund things for the common for people in general, roads, fire department, police department, stuff like that.
Well, I mean, so, and that's why, you know what? So, again, America, this is why y'all got to start utilizing your voice. Because he brings up a good point. If taxes was done fair across the board, and it's an easy fix, we'll just use 10%. If everybody just paid 10% based on your income, you couldn't get no more fair than that. Because I'm gonna pay 10% based off my 20,000. He's paying 10% off his 50,000. Companies paying 10% off their million. It's the same. It's based off what you make, and you pay a percentage, 10%. Now you're taking the money and pool it, and now we got to make sure that it's going to the right entities in order to fund what we need to do. See, government takes this money and they don't know where it goes. I've heard some of the most craziest projects that they fund with tax dollars based off what they call this is research. And I should have printed a list off, so forgive me for that. But you can go on look up government research programs and these some of these universities that gets like hundreds of thousands, in some cases millions of dollars to do these researches over the next 10 years, 5 years, however long it's going to take. And some of them don't have nothing to do with nothing that's going to help us. Like the lifestyle of the community tribe in the African wilderness. And so they're paying this university to study this tribe on how they live out here and what they do and how they do their economics. When they get all that research information, what is that going to do to help us? Nothing. But this is where your funding goes. And you got people, again, you got people that don't need money that apply for government funding and get it. Matter of fact, long time ago, they was doing something about government programs that you can apply for. And one of the news people off of CBS, I can't forget his name, he was able to apply for a federal grant to start a horse farm on his ranch. And he was like one of the top anchor people, so he wasn't hurting for money. But he was able to apply for a grant to start a horse farm on his ranch. Now tell me who investigated that one and who did the research to find out whether he should even get that kind of money to do a horse ranch. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep. It's like the PPP loans during COVID. That loan was for business, and that's why they started going after people because people were coming up. They were making up businesses and getting all that money. There was one guy who got something like millions of dollars, but it's like the airline industry.
Mhm.
Airline industry was one that got a lot of money during COVID too.
airline.
They're not hurting for anything.
Nope.
Give that money to people that need it.
And that's where, like I said, the disconnect, because we'll take housing. Now, here where we live at, they're doing man, I can't think, but they're slowly moving all the poor folks out.
Gentrification.
There you go. Thank you. See, folks, that's why you got to keep young people around. They they can keep you straight. So you keep young people around because they know what you're talking about. When you get old like me, just stuff leaves you. So, um, I've watched it because where my mother's gone now, but where she used to live at was a housing, public housing. They moved all those people out, flattened it, tore it down, built up this whole new community. When they moved them out, they gave them the promise that they'd be able to move back in, knowing that they wouldn't be able to move back in because the restrictions or the eligibility to move in, they knew they wouldn't be able to meet. So these people would not be able to move back in once they built this, but they've done it for two housing areas that were well known. That was It was affordable housing for people that they were low income, and this is where they live. Moved them, cleared them lands out, put up some townhouses and condos and whatever, and moved these people out. Where we at? They have started in the center of downtown and just slowly moving all these people out. You don't even recognize downtown no more. They done put so much stuff up. And then all around the outskirts of downtown where they done put up these houses, 400 something $1,000. What poor folk can afford 400 something $1,000 home? They're pricing everybody out. And at no point do I see anybody saying anything about building affordable housing. And when I say affordable, for the average person, they can't pay rent no more than maybe $600 a month. Anything above that, it gets outrageous. Because right now, rent is like $1,200, $1,300 a month for a one bedroom.
Not to cut you off, but I want to add to what you're saying before I forget.
Yeah, go ahead.
Nowhere in the country can somebody make minimum wage afford a one bedroom places.
No, no, they can't. But then they get upset at talking about at least they should be paying a livable wage. And they, well, what's a livable wage? What do you mean? I should be able to work a job and should be able to pay my rent, pay my utilities, have some food in the house. I'm not talking about nothing elaborate. I'm talking about the basic necessities. I should be able to work. If I'm going to work 40 hours, work 40 hours. When I get done, I should be able to pay my rent, some food in the house, and take care of myself. Now, if I want to do anything beyond that, then I need to go get me another job or go get a better job or whatever. But at least the job that I'm doing should take care of my basic needs. So that's a living wage. And I know people, and you tell me, Quinn, about what you feel about this. So I know people say, like McDonald's, fast food industry or whatever, these are non-skilled jobs. Anybody can do it, so forth and so on. Why would we pay somebody that kind of wage to work at a fast food restaurant? And I'm admit, when I first heard it, I thought the same thing. But over time, I got educated. A job is a job. This person chooses to work at McDonald's for whatever reason. I ain't mad at him. At least he's working. So if this is all he can get based on his education level, his skill sets, whatever, at least he's working. Why should he have to suffer? He's working 40 plus hours, and he can't even afford a place to.
Yeah.
That's where it gets twisted. I think if somebody is willing to work and put in the time, that should at least he should be able to meet his basic needs, which is a place to live and whatever. So that means we need to turn around and have places for these people to live that's affordable within their budget, so you can say that we're paying them a livable wage. But that's just like that article you had showed. Now, what sense does this make? I make $64,000, whatever it was. It was in the 60s. This will say 64. $64,000 a year. That's a nice salary. $64,000 a year. But I cannot afford to live in the city that I work. That's crazy. $64,000 a year. But I cannot afford to live in the city. So I have to commute over an hour. I don't know, however long it's going to take for me, because I had to leave the city lines in order to find somewhere that I can afford to live. So now you tell me, Mr. Quinn, how much sense that makes.
Don't make no sense. I agree with you. You work 40 hours a week, regardless of what you do, you should at least be able to pay for somewhere to stay and some food. There should be there should be a baseline that people, you don't fall under unless you just don't work, right?
Correct.
So yeah, and people use the argument about working at McDonald's. Well, they'll say, well, this is the jobs like this for high school kids. Well, back in the day, that was true, but times have changed. Everything change is the only thing that's constant.
Mm-hmm.
Economics evolve, politics evolve, society evolves. So we got to keep. Why are we gonna keep with the same rules? And these companies are making record profits. They need workers. They need labor. Then they need to pay people. I mean, it's either we pay them or there's a cap on rent or something.
Well, see, that's you just brought up a good point. So at one time, government used to regulate a lot of stuff. They regulated insurance companies. They regulated this. They used to regulate a lot of stuff. They regulated the trucking industry. They regulated freight. They regulated a lot of stuff back in the day. And then was it Carter? Might have been Carter. Somebody came in and started deregulating stuff.
Reagan.
And
Really started with Nixon, sorry, but Reagan did it also.
so they started deregulating stuff, and what happened? It let the dogs out the house. And so that there should have, you're talking about, I don't want government in my business. But if you're not doing business fairly, somebody's got to regulate you. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole purpose of government, to make sure stuff is done fair across the board. If you are a greedy corporate entity that are trying to just collect all that you can, then you need to be regulated, because you want to make $1 million a year plus bonuses plus pay for this, pay for that, and you're raking all your salary off the top, and then whatever's left trickles down to the employee. Hopefully, they can get paid, or maybe you'll pay for their benefit. Because you got companies, and that's the thing about companies. You got some companies, if you work for them, they'll cover you, but when you add your family, watch out, brother. You'll lose half your check.
Yeah.
If you add your family. Not all companies. I'm just saying some companies, they'll pay for your health care. They'll cover you. But when you add your family, I've heard some crazy, outrageous monthly payments or premiums that they pay out of their check just to have their family on to be covered from health care. And I'm like you, Quentin. It's gotta be something that can, because I ain't saying to give nobody anything. I'm saying to be fair,
Yeah.
that a person can live and raise their family without being stressed out about economics. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
A man got to be stressed because he's trying to raise, we'll just say, a family of 3. You got 3 kids. Now, starting off, these kids are babies. Okay, let's talk about the daycare industry. They rape you every week. The money that they charge for, well, you can attest to that. You just had a baby. You know what it is to try to get daycare for your baby. If you put your baby in a decent daycare, it's outrageous. And you don't really get a whole lot for your money. They just watching your kid.
$1,200 a week.
Do what?
You can pay $1,200 a week.
Now, you tell me what average family is going to be able to afford $1,200 a week in daycare, $1,400 a month rent, $600 plus for food, and then all your utilities, and God knows you have a car payment and so forth and so on, and they're just barely making it $21, $22 an hour. Now you tell me how somebody's supposed to get ahead in life, because you're just working to survive a month. So now you just the literally working paycheck to paycheck. That's what you're doing. That's why we got so many homeless people, because it only takes one paycheck. Once that one paycheck you miss, you're gone, because you'll never catch up. You'll never catch up, because the next month now you it double, and then it triples. Next thing you know, they putting you out of your apartment. Next thing you know, you living out of your car. There's a whole lot of homeless people that are still working. God bless them. There's a lot of homeless people that go to work every day, but don't have a place to lay their head. They go to work, they go to the gym, they take a shower, they do what they got to do, but they living out of their car. And I think that's sad. And what's so amazing about these people, that They don't complain.
Mm-hmm.
Because you never hear them complain. When you find out about it, you're shocked. You're like, so and so's living out their car. They just do what they got to do. My hat's off to them. I mean, I can't imagine you going to work 40 hours a week plus, can't afford to live. You got to live out of your car. And that there, now it puts you upside down because some people say, well, you're living out of your car, you're not no expenses. Yes, you do. Because if it's wintertime, you got the car running for heat. You now got to pay for everything because you have nowhere to store food. You have nowhere to keep nothing. So every day you're spending money to eat, for ice, keep ice in a cooler and all that. It actually costs more to be homeless because now you got to pay as you go. So how do you get ahead? You fell behind, and now you're at this situation. You want to get ahead, but how many hours can you work? You're already working 40 plus hours. You took on odd jobs. You're trying to get back on your feet, but it's costing you more to stay homeless. And then when you try to go get assistance, they want to cap you out at certain much. Well, you're working, you're making X amount of dollars, you don't qualify. What do you mean I don't qualify? I don't have a house to live in. You get on a housing list, it takes forever to get a housing. The whole system just needs to be revamped. That's all. I'm sorry. I ran.
Yeah. I want to go back to what we were talking about, government regulations. So you'll bring some of these arguments up to people. Like, we talk about potentially having free health care, free education, stuff like that. And then people will say, well, the government isn't supposed to take care of you. Okay. So they're not supposed to take care of us, which means we don't need to pay taxes, right? Because that's what tax money is. So what happens in a society where there's no referee? Corporations and the wealthy are going to take all that they can and nobody's going to stop.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I always use this as an example. I mean, we have child labor laws because they used to work children in mines.
Yep.
Now, like I'm not talking about handouts, like people against handouts. We're not talking about just giving people things. We're talking about helping people get on their feet, like a base, not just giving them money and stuff like that, but giving them opportunities to do things. I looked up some other things too, since we're talking about corporate tax.
Mm-hmm.
CEO pay versus worker pay. 2023, median pay for an S&P 500 company CEO was $16.3 million. Median employee earnings is $81,467. That's 312 to 1. And on average, a CEO makes 200 times more than a worker.
Man.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. And it hasn't always been that way. It's been slowly rising since at least Reagan, deregulation, privatization. I mean, that's what happens. Like, another thing, we talk about government isn't supposed to take care of you. Okay. But what happens when when healthcare and food is privatized? And again, I mean, because essentially in an ideal society, government's supposed to be the referee, right? So what happens when everything is privatized and somebody owns it? I mean, we see this today. They can turn, like insurance company turning people down for pre-existing conditions.
Yep.
It'll really be a have versus a have-not society. So.
Well, that's what a lot of them want. They won't tell you that. The Heritage Foundation that started with the Koch brothers, that's what they want. They want to run and control everything. Y'all just sit down here and scrabble for scraps, and that's what they want. That's the big battle with the Postal Service. It's $1 billion business, but it's not a business. It's a service provided to the American public. And people keep trying to treat it like a business, and it doesn't work. And they see that now. They're trying to treat it like a business, and they done screwed it all up. People ain't getting their mail. Can't nobody find their mail. Medicine is late. Some people ain't even getting their medicine. It's a disaster because this fool is trying to run it as a business. Not saying that we can't be more efficient, but it's not a business. We can be more efficient, but I tell you what, this is a business decision that they made. So the Postal Service is supposed to be buying all these EVs, and they're starting to run them out and deploy them. But prior to that, somebody in corporate postal world made the bright idea to purchase a whole bunch of what they call Mercedes metrics, Mercedes vans. They're right-hand drive vehicles, which what the Postal Service, and this was supposed to be the fill-in vehicle in between us trying to phase out the old postal vehicles and getting our new electric. These Mercedes Metras were never ever designed to haul mail. These are the worst vehicles ever that anybody can purchase to do the everyday task of a postal employee. I don't know who made the decision. I don't know who field tested these vehicles, but somebody got paid. And somebody's sitting on an island now laughing their butt off because we are stuck with a bunch of junk. These vehicles weren't even in service 3 months and started having mechanical issues. And then the only place you can take them to is the Mercedes deal. And then they'll sit down there for about 8 months before anybody looks at it. It's been a disaster. But this is the money that the post office collects, and this is what we're spending it on. And this was a business decision, not a practical decision on what we do. This was a business decision. Just like they're going around building all these new plants, and the mail is just sitting in these plants because this was a business decision instead of a practical decision on service. That's what it should have been. That's just like with the prison system. Prison systems are now pretty much, a lot of them are privatized, but now they've turned a prison into a business. And so now you have to keep the beds full. I don't know people realizing this now. Y'all need to wake up. That's why they don't have no problem putting y'all in jail when you mess up and keep you there for as long as they can. Because as long as those beds have a body in it, somebody's getting paid. It's a whole lot of money they get for a prisoner sitting in one of them prison cells. That's why a lot of them are overcrowded now. But somebody fell in love with the idea of privatizing and, oh, we can do this and we can do that. And so now we're in the business of incarcerating people because it's big business. It's big business. My brother Quentin, he can talk about this. He sent me a company out near Oregon. Quentin, talk about that company that he refused to sell out.
Oh, Bob's Red Mill.
Yeah, talk about that. And I wanted to talk about this because there's only very few companies now that even operate like this. And these companies are successful, and big companies keep trying to buy them out because they want to control everything. And he finished talking about it and lead into something else. But tell them about that company.
So it's Bob's Red Mill, and some of you probably heard of them. They sell oatmeal, flour, grits, just stuff like that. So this guy, and Bob recently passed away this past February. And so he started this company, him and his wife, built it up, got real big, good products, hired a bunch of people. And some other bigger companies have been trying to buy him for a few years, but he would never sell to them. So he started the process of transferring ownership of the company to his employees. I think he said 10 years ago. And if I remember right, I think it was 2021 is when the company became 100% employee owned. That's another thing. It's another way in which we can organize society. We can organize it in worker-owned co-ops. But he liked the culture. I mean, reading the article, he sounded like he was a good person in general, but he wanted to keep the same culture. He wanted to make sure that his people were taken care of because he knew if he sold it, they would have got rid of people. They would have laid people off. They would have slashed the benefits, just like they do anywhere.
So yeah. So listen, America, come close. This is important. Listen, a successful company, and this is James talking, a successful company, you really want to make money, you need to make your employees feel valued and a part of it, a part of the business. If you think somebody's just going to come in there and work and you're going to work them to death and treat them in any old kind of way and talk them all kind of way and don't want to pay them nothing and don't have no benefits, no type of retirement, no nothing, and think they're supposed to be loyal to you, you are a fool. You're a fool. And all you are greedy and stupid because you're going to run through employees and wonder why your turnover rate is so high because it costs a lot to train an employee to come work for you. That's a big expense. I don't know why companies ain't figured that out yet because they always complain about how much it costs to bring an employee in and go through orientation and all this other stuff, and then they don't even last a year. Why? Because you burn them out. Case in point, There's a company here called SAS. It's a farmer computer thingy. There's a company here, SAS, and there's another company in California. They did a thing on them years ago. They treat their employees like they're somebody. Nobody leaves these companies. SAS, nobody leaves SAS. People are happy. They're profitable. They're taken care of. If I'm not mistaken, they got an on-site daycare. They got a on-site nurse for, like, you get a cold or something, and it's a PA, and she subscribe you stuff. I mean, I just don't get why employees, they sit in these boardrooms and have conversations, and how nobody ever came up with the idea that, you know what, hey, let's try this for 90 days. Let's make our employees feel valued. Let's let them have a say so on what we do. When we get ready to do something, let's get employees' opinions and find out. In fact, let's go down to the workroom floor and see how everything is going. See how things are working. Maybe they can give us some suggestions for improvement. You never know. Since they are doing the work, you're not. You're in the boardroom where it's nice and comfy. You're getting ready to go play golf. Guess what? But they're in there sweating, making your product. So how about going to make them feel valued? How about going to make them feel like, I'm part of the company and my work means something here. I feel like I'm contributing something to the company. And so I like coming to work. I look forward to coming to work. And when I come to work, I'm going to do the best that I can do because this company really appreciates me and what I do. You will never have turnover. Well, I shouldn't say you never have turnover, but your turnover rate would be very, very low. Because if anybody come in there trying to mess up what they got, the employees will take care of that. They'll get them out of there. They're not going to let them mess up a good thing. But all these companies, man, they just use and abuse, and they look at people as a commodity that, I can get another one. If you don't stay, that's fine. I'll get somebody else. But you'll never really earn the profit and make the money that you probably want to make, because what you're doing is just basically ruining your own business, because you're taking the profits off the top and putting it in your pocket. You're not reinvesting in your company. You're not reinvesting in your employees. And so eventually what's going to happen? You're going to have so much high turnover, and then you end up selling the business to somebody else. Ain't nobody listening. so and that's just like with so when we was talking about profits and stuff with that Pitchfork Economy podcast, they was talking about Amazon. Now, you were talking about regulation, and you're talking about regulating and things. Now, I thought there was a law against this, so I pulled up Amazon to find out, because on the podcast they was talking about how during the pandemic there was a shortage on diapers, if y'all remember. And so there was a company called diapers.com. I forget the actual company, but they online was diapers.com that was selling diapers. So Amazon wanted to buy them out and they wouldn't sell. So they lowered their prices to where they couldn't compete with Amazon and ended up having to sell to them anyway. So I pulled it up to see just how many companies that they had acquired over the years. And so the list went all the way to, where did it go? The list went all the way to 115 companies. Amazon has bought over 115 companies all over the world, not just in the US, India, Israel, Canada, Sweden, Finland, Belgium, United Kingdom. They bought companies all over for whatever they paid for. And they either kept it going for a while. Most of these they absorbed into their network and either kept the name or they changed it to something else. But Amazon has taken over 100, well, as of this list, 115 companies. I thought there was a law against that. I thought, because back in the day when, what was it, Bell South, they claimed it got too big and made them disband. Bell South had to disband. Now you got AT&T and all that. It was Bell South. And it was another company. It was another company that was they claimed it was too big. It was too big, and they had to, and the government made them disband. They had to sell off their part of their company. So yeah, I mean, what do you want? And then Amazon has stockholds in about 3, 11, 12, 13, 17, 18, 23 as of this list, that they have a vested interest in these companies. Like, some of them are small, some of them 49%, 20%, 61%. One, they ain't got nothing next to it. So they even got their hands in other businesses as a stockholder. But yet, going back to what Quentin was saying, how do they treat their workers at Amazon? Amazon's trying to organize and get unionized, and boy, and Amazon is putting up a fight. Do you know? And just talk about this for a second. So, like he was saying about treating their employees or whatever, Amazon, from what I understand, I never worked there and never will, hopefully. It's I heard it's really rough. I heard they hold them to a whole lot of stringent demands, quotas. They have to meet certain levels, and it's very strenuous. It's very taxing. It's very frustrating, from what I've been told from people that have worked there. And if you don't make these, like if you got something come across your line, you got to make so much move down your line. And if you don't make this quota, you get a warning. If you still can't make this quota, you get another warning. I think on your third strike, they fire you. So that's my understanding. Again, this is just I'm getting stuff from the outside. I'm not in there. But for people that are at Amazon and trying to get organized, I've heard that their stories that it's not what people think. Now you would think that the biggest employer in the United States is close to Amazon, I guess, for as many warehouses they have. They're one of the biggest employers, but yet they don't invest in there. Now, what's crazy, have you seen their commercials about working at Amazon? They make their employees like they're valued and they train them and all this other stuff. But
Yeah.
they give you this perception like you come work for us and we're going to take care of you, but that's a lie. America, that's a lie. That's not what happened. Probably for the 1% that come through the door, probably for the ones that they like, the ones that come in there and kiss their butt, they probably do that for them. But for the average worker that's coming in trying to work, they ain't doing it for them. So
Yeah. Yep.
anyway, what you think about it?
One thing they said on the podcast on that pitchfork economics is that now I want to mention that the guy who started it is a capitalist. So this isn't, nothing of what we're saying about this is anti-capitalist. He himself is a capitalist. He just wants it to be fair for regular people. And he understands that it being fair for regular people in turn helps America, helps society, helps the economy. Because if you give people money, they're going to spend it.
Yep.
They're not going to hold on to it. He understands that. And also, I think he actually does love America because, how can you say that and you're taking money from the country, which is, it's hurting. It's hurting the country. It's hurting the economy. It's hurting everything. But what they said was a good idea, or not that it was a good idea. What needs to happen is that to keep prices low, there needs to be more competition. Like you said, it's breaking up those big companies so they can't, or those conglomerates, so they can't own half of that industry. Because if you got companies competing, prices are going to be naturally they're going to be low because everybody's going to be trying to get more sales than everybody else.
So things stay competitive. You're right. So
Yeah.
it's like that list I just raised down. So if Amazon bought all these companies, basically they're buying off all their companies. Most of these are stuff that they're doing within Amazon. So you think about it, if Amazon at some point absorbs basically all their competition or the majority of the competition, they'll choke off everybody else. Because right now, where does everybody go when they buy something? Amazon. And
Yeah.
And in some instances, it's cheaper on Amazon for a lot of stuff. Some it's not. I guess it just depends on what it is. But at some point, if Amazon keeps going down the path they're going, eventually they're going to choke off everybody that, nobody's going to be able to compete with Amazon. And so they're either going to have to sell to Amazon or close their door. And so that's what the government is supposed to prevent. Letting these companies, like you said, buy up all this stuff. And so if you don't have competition, who do you have to compete against?
And you set prices. Sorry, and you set prices where you want to set them.
Exactly. So we don't win. That's just like when you need stuff done at your house. Say you need the roof done. Because there's competition, you get quotes. So you can, get the best price. And so you call maybe 2 or 3 or maybe 4 contractors in to give you a quote so that you get the best price. But if there's only one company to call, guess what? you screwed, because whatever they charge, you're going to have to pay. And if you need your roof
And they can
done,
give you shabby service.
uh,
I said, and they can give you shabby service because where else you going?
that's just it. Yeah. Where else you going? You are stuck with this company. You're not going to be happy with what they do. They're going to charge you an arm and a leg. And then there's no service after the sale. You need them to come back. Why are they going to come back? They're the only company around. Yeah, we'll get to you when we get to you. And so competition is definitely something that we need in America to keep things, again, fair across the board. I know people don't like that word fair across the board, but people, and I think you said this before, Quinn, people need to be a little more compassionate. They need to start looking at people with their hearts and not with their wallet, I guess. I don't know what is this. People are not compassionate at all. People used to come and rally when people were in need, would help and be there and do things and whatever. Now they can care less. They'd rather watch you crash and burn than to give you a hands up. And that's all America has ever been about, a hand up. You help the next person up so they can help the next person. Our education system is not based on anything that's going to help anybody be successful. None. You waste all that time, 12 years in high school, and then you go to college, and then you get out to get a job in a field that you didn't even go to school for. So what sense does that make? You done spent all this money to go to school, to be whatever. You get a degree in it, but then you go get a job in something totally different. So we don't even direct our children in the direction. School should be of education, growth, and to show you how to be not only a productive member, but how to strive, and the business behind wealth and wealth building, and how you can become successful and wealthy. And not only that, now take what you learn and share with others. Help others with your wealth, because you can't take none of this with you. After a certain point, you have so much. Heck, if somebody came and robbed half of it, you never miss it. And so, why can't now I take that knowledge and help the next person up and put them in the same position? Because people think you're going to take what they got. That's why they're scared to help people now. People that got money, they don't want to help nobody because they think you're going to take what they got. I don't want what you got. I want to know your knowledge. I want to get your wisdom, because what you know to get you to where you are may help me to get me where I want to go. Why can't we share that knowledge? Why can't we share what we know that helped us to get somewhere, to let somebody else know so that they can get there too? There's enough to go around. The world, we're not running out of resources, even though that's what they want to tell you. We ain't run out of resources. It's 2024. If we were going to run out of resources, we'd have been ran out, because we're a glutton. We're a glutton country. We just consume. Just like he said, if you get money, case in point, pandemic, man, they was giving money away left and right. That money ain't staying in nobody's hand. They were spending that money buying TVs and cars and all kind of stuff. That money didn't go to nothing that was supposed to. Some of that money was supposed to be going towards people's rent. They ain't pay their rent because they put a moratorium on rent. So guess what? When they got the money for the rent, what they do? They spend on something else. Insane. Yep. So anyway, I'm sorry. Did I go into it? Speaking of politics, let's look at this quick. It's about, what time is it? Okay, we got time. It's about 8 minutes, and this is an interview with our man, Mr. Bernie Sanders. It was MSNBC, and so he did a quick interview. At the time they made this, he was not really endorsing Kamala Harris, and he kind of talks about that in this. So we're going to play this for you now.
Back in 2020, Kamala Harris was one of 7 sitting senators who challenged Joe Biden for the Democratic presidential nomination. 4 years later, Harris is the de facto nominee, and all of those other senators have endorsed her campaign, with one exception, Bernie Sanders. Earlier this week, the independent Vermont senator and progressive icon told reporters on Capitol Hill, quote, "I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that she becomes president," end quote, but stopped short of formally endorsing her. The Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders joins me now. Senator, good to see you. I want to talk politics, but first I have to tell you, my dad in Toronto, 89-year-old father, had like a heart valve replacement surgery, and wanted me to make sure you knew that the only thing he paid for in our single-payer universal health care system was parking.
Well, I would hope that everybody in this country hears that, because we remain the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people. A lot to be learned from the Canadians.
Which would be great if that could be on the next president's agenda. It would involve more than winning the White House, but it would be great if we could get to that point. Whatever model one wants to choose, they're all kind of better than ours. So what is it that you would like to get in order to get your endorsement? What sort of commitments are you looking for from Vice President Harris?
All right, look, I'm going to do everything I can to defeat Donald Trump, clearly the most dangerous president in our history, somebody who doesn't believe in democracy, the right of women to control their own bodies. We don't talk about it enough. This guy thinks climate change is a hoax in the midst of us experiencing the warmest day on Earth on record. So he has got to be defeated. What I have worried about, as you know, Ali, for a long time, is it pains me as somebody who comes from a working class family that right now a majority of working class people support the Republicans who could care less about the needs of working families. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that the Democratic Party has over the decades turned its back on working people. And I think an important exception to that is Joe Biden. Joe has been the first president in American history to walk on a picket line, appointed a really strong Secretary of Labor, good people, National Labor Relations Board, and I think has put together the most progressive agenda and accomplishments of any president in modern history. But what I hope we can do in this campaign is let the working class of this country, white and black and Latino, understand that we understand the pain that they are experiencing. You know, we are looking at massive income and wealth inequality. Ali, the truth of the economy now, people on top are doing phenomenally well. 60% of our people live in paycheck to paycheck. We talked about healthcare. Our healthcare system is broken, dysfunctional. We got half of our elderly people trying to get by on $30,000 or less. We have a child care system totally broken. We have got to start paying attention to the needs of the working class of this country and stand up to powerful special interests who have enormous power, not only in the Republican Party, but I have to say in the Democratic Party as well.
So have you got I mean, clearly you've had this list because you can rhyme it off the top of your head. Are there particular commitments you want from Kamala Harris that you felt like you had from Joe Biden?
My friends laughed when I said I was going to start selling things on Amazon, but a few years later, look where I am living.
Well, as you know, President Biden supported a 100-day agenda, said that in the first 100 days, he would do things like expanding Social Security benefits. All right, 25% of our people, elderly people on Social Security, living on $15,000 a year. We can do that by lifting the cap on taxable income and extend the life of Social Security by 75 years. Medicare, well, look, between you and me, as you well know, the Congress is not ready to move to Medicare for all, which I support. But you know what you could do and what the President Biden wants to do? Expand Medicare to cover dental, hearing, and vision. All right? We can raise the minimum wage to a living wage. We can cancel all student debt. We can put a cap on rising rents in this country and build millions of units of affordable housing. We could deal with the child care crisis. We can do those things and more and make it clear to the working class that we are prepared to take on the big money interests who have never had it so good. And by the way, in the midst of all this, Ali, we got to start talking about a corrupt political system as a result of Citizens United, where Elon Musk is now trying to buy the election for Trump, $45 million a month. Too many billionaires are controlling the political process. We got to end that. We got to overturn Citizens United and move to public funding of elections, in my view.
So there's nothing in anything you've said that would suggest that you'd spend a minute thinking about Donald Trump as a presidential candidate. So what's the difference between you working really hard to overcome Donald Trump's election as president and endorsing Kamala Harris?
Well, look, you know where I am right now? I'm in Manchester, New Hampshire. We just had a great town meeting here talking about the need to elect the vice president. We were in West Lebanon. I'm going to be in Bangor, Maine tomorrow, Portland, Maine. That's what I'm doing. But I think it's important for some of us to say, look, we know that there's a lot of big money in the Democratic Party. We want to make sure that the vice president is listening to the working class of this country, to progressives as well, and brings forth very specific ideas. These are not radical ideas. Expanding Medicare by lifting the cap, expanding Social Security, building housing. These are not radical ideas.
No.
And I would hope very much that we get some specificity.
Is that, in order to get that specificity, is that conversation happening in real time right now? Are you in that conversation with the vice president, or your people in the conversation with the vice president's campaign?
Well, I have talked to the vice president and look forward to speaking to her again in the near future. And yeah, that conversation is going on.
Got it. Talk to me about what that would do for you differently. In other words, you getting those assurances, you're going out there, you're telling people in all those places you just named that they've got to vote for the vice president. What will happen when you get the assurances you want, which I suspect you'll get?
Look, I hope I do get them. I hope I do. Look, this country cannot, in my view, just tolerate Donald Trump's getting elected. So I am out there, I work hard, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that Harris is our next president. But I just am trying. You know, it pains me personally, again, coming from a working class background, that so many workers, especially white workers, are turning their backs on the Democratic Party. And I think we can bring them in if we give them an understanding. We know what's going on in their lives, the pain they're experiencing, and that we have an agenda so that their kids are not going to have a lower standard of living than they do, so that they can afford to go to a doctor, so that they can be easier for them to join a union, so that we raise the minimum wage. These are not radical ideas. And the Democratic Party has got to start addressing them at every level.
Do you feel that there's a little more energy in this race than there was a week ago?
Oh, absolutely. It seems to me, you were just discussing it a moment ago, getting 160,000 people on a Zoom call, that is, to say the least, pretty crazy. That is a way out. But yeah, I think there is a lot of energy, and I hope it can be maintained.
Okie dokie. He almost mirrored everything you was talking about. You know, he's right. They make it seem like a lot of this stuff is just right. Oh, Lord. Evidently, I don't. Give me 1 second. Let me get it out of here. There we go. All right. So he was right. It's about the working man, the working woman. Everything he talked about, he's right. It's not a radical idea, but they make it seem radical. Why is it radical for us to have affordable housing? Why is it radical for us to have affordable health care? Why won't we raise the cap? Why won't we? All this stuff he just talked about seemed like it's such a simple fix that would just help so many Americans. But yet we battle back and forth about all this nonsense. I don't understand, Quentin. Tell me, what's the problem?
Well, a lot of it being called radical comes from, people with money who just want to keep more of their money, or they want to keep making the profits they made. But that's why they didn't choose Bernie in the first place. But Bernie's talking about passing, laws and legislations that I don't know if I heard him say it, but I think if he didn't, he almost said it. There should be no billionaires, because when you look at the numbers of buying and selling, what it takes to run a business, nobody earns $1 billion. That's through not paying taxes. That's through not paying your workers. Stuff like that. Like, I'm gonna use this as an example. The Amazon Flex thing, I believe this was during COVID. You can sign up and drive your car to deliver for Amazon. But it came out that Amazon was stealing tips from the workers. And after it came out is when Jeff Bezos stepped down as CEO.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This was a few years ago. I want to say it was during COVID. But yeah.
Sad.
So, and then, I always bring up FDR for what he did with social programs for the country. I mean, the country was so broke that the government couldn't fund the programs, and everybody was angry. I mean, everybody was poor. You're talking about the Great Depression. I mean, he raised the taxes on the highest income earners. He took that money and he funded social programs, and everybody was happy. But it took for people, because they were really organizing in that day, and it was really hard to not see class at that time. You saw class when literally everybody is living off dirt, and you see somebody ride by. I mean, in that time, somebody may have had a car. Everybody didn't have cars.
Right.
You see this business owner, he living fat. So it was kind of hard not to see class then. And so they were really organizing. It was going to be a full-on revolution. Bernie's talking about kind of doing the same thing, just taking some of that money and giving it back to the people to make society better for all of us. I mean, I don't understand. Like you said, why is it radical to actually care about people? What's radical about me if I mean, you'll have people that say this. Yeah, I don't mind paying more if that means this child over here can get whatever they need, you know?
Yeah. Well, we've become such a selfish society. We're a selfish society. We don't look after the fellow man. And this is crazy. This is what the country supposedly was based off of. Look after your fellow man. United we stand, divided we fall. All these cliches that has come across America over the years, but yet here we are 2024, more divided than ever. And people that actually get this country going are suffering. They're suffering, man. There's somebody in America, man, that's trying to figure out how they're gonna get their kid to the doctor because he can't afford. You know what I'm saying? He can't afford
Yep.
the medicine his kid needs in order for this kid to survive. There's somebody in America that's sitting at the table right now trying to figure this out, and yet we go on like everything is okay. Everything is. The one thing I would say about the government, they need to do a better do better as far as regulating programs. I mean, they come up with some good programs, but then they just send the money out. There's no accountability. Any blow Joe can apply for this money, and there it go. And it's like it looks good on paper that I had, I had $20 million for this program, and we've used 90% of it. But where did that 90% of that money go? Where did it go to? Did you interview these people? Had to put in an application. Did y'all interview them? Are y'all following up with them? Do y'all even know where this money went? So that's one thing. I don't know. But
Yep.
transition to one last thing before we get out of here. So that police shooting with that guy Grayson, lady name was Massey. Let me say this because the one thing that always happens when you have something like this is that y'all want to demonize the and I'm gonna say this because this goes along to whatever a lot of other things that I talk about that the government want to tell you that this is an issue because when things start happening, then all of a sudden gun control becomes an issue. This becomes an issue. Incarceration becomes it. We need to have more heavier sentences on these people, and it just keeps going on and on and on. Let me tell you something. The justice system needs to be revamped because one, we got laws on the books that are way outdated. We have sentencings for such small crimes that are outrageous that they'll send somebody to jail for the next 25 years for an ounce of marijuana, something crazy like that. It's all messed up. But going back to this officer that was supposed to be helping this lady, she called, they came, supposed to be helping. When they didn't see nobody, told the lady didn't see nobody, they should have left. But no, they want to come inside the lady's house, and then one thing led to another. This particular officer, Grayson, had issues. He was in the Army, served for 3 years according to his attorney, and then he was discharged due to misconduct, serious offenses, according to the Department of Defense. So then he gets out of the Army, becomes a law enforcement. And then if you pull up his record as a law enforcement officer, where is it at? He done worked in 5 different police departments and been separated from all of them. This is his record. So according to the state that he's so I bring all this up to say we was talking before. There is a way to fix everything. And I happen to be talking to some former law enforcement people that I know, and he brought up a good point that nobody wants to talk about, and that's to do a national registry of police officers. They did it for driver's license because I don't know if y'all remember back in the day, driver's license. When you lost your driver's license, all you had to do was go across the state line and get a state license in another state, and you was legally able to drive again. When they finally caught on to that, because a lot of people was getting DUIs, losing their license, and then they go into another state, get a license, and then when they lost that one, they go into another state. Some people had like multiple state licenses, but none of them was tied to the other state, so nobody knew. They finally realized, hey, we need to tie all this together. So they came up with a national database. Now you can't do that no more. If you lose your license in North Carolina, everybody knows about it, and you're stuck. Same thing for the police department. If you are fired due to misconduct, your record sucks. It needs to go into this database so that if you try to go to another state and apply and they pull up your record, they see that you are not fit to be a police officer. You need to go down to the bus department and drive the public. That's what you need to do. See, there's ways to fix everything. And you have a lot of police departments that hired these rogue cops, knowing that they have these crazy records and they're not fit to be a policeman in law enforcement, and y'all still hire them. I hope. I'm not a big person on suing. I think we've gone way beyond suing, but this particular incident, I hope that family, I hope that lawyer can hold not only that guy, but the whole police department for even hiring that guy with the record that he had. You know, take the whole police department and the person that hired him and all of them, hold them all accountable because they knew this guy was crazy. They knew it. His record showed it. It wasn't like this is something that just came up last night. His record showed it, but y'all hired him. And this fool went and shot an innocent lady who's now gone for no apparent reason because y'all hired this rogue cop. It ain't the police department. It's the system that we have for the police department. We don't need to defund the police department. We need to fix the problem, and that will fix the problem. A national database for policemen that when they do all crazy stuff needs to go in that database, just like we have a national database for DNA. We have a national database for all kind of stuff now, and so this would be just something that could fall right along. I don't know. What's your opinion on that, Quinn?
No, I agree. I think that's a good idea. Like you said, something they'll be reprimanded for bad conduct in one city and then go to the next city over. If we get a national database to root out all the road cops, pay them a little bit more, I don't think they would have a problem finding people that want to be police officers.
No, you're right about that. Some of the starting salaries for a police officer is mighty low and I think so from what I understand, I think where the compensation comes in at is all the overtime they work. But still, that's a problem. Them working, you know what I'm saying? Because you can only work so long to where your body's not functional. If you're working 12 plus hours a day, every day, or even however they work their swing shifts or whatever they work, still that takes a toll on you. And not only that, the job itself is stressful. I mean, these people, when they leave home, they don't know if they're coming back. You know, that plays on your mind. I don't know if anybody knows that, but a police officer, fireman, when they leave home and go on these shifts like firemen, they stay at the firehouse, 3 days? I think they do 3 days, 3 days in a row or something like that. They do like blocks of time. But these people leave home, they don't even know if they're coming back. Because it may be that one call that it's a shootout or something simple as serving a warrant and this fool comes blasting through the door. We've had police officers killed that way. Just doing something simple like serving a warrant or doing a welfare check, and the next thing you know, guns are blazing. Being a policeman is first of all, we need to remember they're human. They're just like you and me. They're human. They're not super, and they have feelings and emotions and things of that nature. Of course, they go through training. Their training is to make them be able to handle situations, other than like a regular civilian. They're supposed to be able to react. They have to react on a minute's notice, a second notice, really. They have to make a split-second decision whether to pull their weapon and blow your head off or pull out their taser and tase you. All these are split-second decisions that they train for and constantly train and have to be able to do out there. But then we have to remember, people, they're still human. They're still human. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not a police officer, I guess, because I'm coming home at night. So I ain't playing with you. If you start acting a fool, it's going to be you before it be me. So that's probably why I ain't never been a police officer. But remember, they're human. But I think there's things that we can put in place that would help better for policemen to deal with their everyday routine, to cut down on the stress. I think that there should be a period of time that it's a cop that's on the street a lot, that's their patrol officer or whatever. I think there should be a period of time that you pull them off patrol, like give them a break, like a 6-month break, 3-month break, something to where put them in the office, put them in a non-combative position, training, something that where they just work regular 8 hours and go home and enjoy their family. To give them a chance to decompress, kind of connect with their family, because as a police officer, they're constantly gone, they're constantly on call, they can't enjoy no family time. So I figure like, a 3 to 6 month break from pulling off duty, put them in a situation where they can decompress, make more mental health office visits or whatever, more mental health options for them available, that when they feel they need to talk to somebody, they can talk to somebody and get the help that I think we need to put more things in place that would help them deal more with being a police officer? Because again, they're human. What you think?
Yeah, and they don't need to work 60 hours a week either. So I ran out of gas one time, like on accident. I didn't, I had some money. I just was going on my way home. And a police officer pulled up behind me and offered to take me to get some gas. Well, I told him I wasn't too far from my house and I had a gas can at home. So he took me home to get my gas can, then to get some gas, and took me and brought me back to my car. And we were talking. He told me how they were short staffed and he was working, 12 hours a day and how that affects your mind and everything else. And I understand. And I developed sleep apnea a few years ago, and I know what it's like to be sleep deprived. And a police officer should never be in that state.
No, for sure.
You don't make good decisions. You can't make good decisions. You can't accurately read the room, let alone if it's that severe. You can't accurately read your own emotions. Your brain is you're just too tired.
Brain fog, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, brother, we have covered a lot of territory today. I hope that you, America, absorb some of this. I hope some of this made sense. I hope that, whether you agree or disagree, put it in the comments. Send us an email to freedom.net@gmail.com. That's freedom.net@gmail.com. That's our email address. Send us something. You agree, disagree, or you can go to our YouTube page. Matter of fact, go to our YouTube page, subscribe and join so you get notifications when we put out our videos and our podcasts. And you can leave a comment there on the YouTube page, or go to the community page in our tab and you can leave something there. We like to hear from you. I mean, hey, we just saying how we feel. How do you feel? We can have a discussion about it. That's what it's all about. We need to talk. We need to discuss. We need to throw ideas back and forth. That's the only way we're going to figure out what we need to do. Just going back and forth, thinking, I'm right, I'm human. And I like, sometimes I go off on tantrums or whatever, and I may not be right in what I'm thinking and what I'm, but over the years, I have learned that some stuff that I've learned that I thought was right, it was wrong. It was a lot of stuff that was wrong. And so I have a whole nother different direction and that's why I like this podcast, because now Quentin is the younger version. But Quentin is wise way beyond his years. He's not your typical Gen X or whatever generation we are in now. Very intelligent brother. I mean, he's very deep and very intelligent. We was having conversations. That's what ignited this podcast. And we said, man, we should be having this conversation so other people can hear it. And hopefully they'll engage as well in their location. But anyway, Quentin, I appreciate you, sir, so much. And thank you for joining me today, sir.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, people, we are out of here again. Please subscribe, leave a review, share this, help us move up the ranks. Until the next time, this is James Parker along with Quentin Williams. And remember, this is the Truth to Freedom podcast, real talk for real people. We'll see you next time.